The unexpected arrival, the great gathering begins. The crystal spires of Kepler Station gleamed like jewels against the star-filled void, their surfaces reflecting the gentle light of 3 distant suns. This magnificent structure had been built by the ethereal collective as a symbol of peace, its flowing architecture designed to welcome beings from across the galaxy. Today marked the most important day in the station's history, the first interspecies peace summit. Ambassador HFY glided through the station's main corridor, his translucent form shimmering with excitement. The ethereals were beings of pure energy contained within crystalline shells, and HFY's shell pulsed with soft blue light as he reviewed the final preparations. Representatives from 27 different species had confirmed their attendance, each bringing hopes for a more peaceful galaxy. "The aquatic delegation from Oceanus Prime has arrived," announced his assistant Velthara, her voice carrying the musical tones that all ethereals used when pleased. "Their diplomatic vessel is docking at Bay 7. HFY's form brightened with satisfaction. The aquatic people were known for their wisdom and calm nature, perfect additions to the Peace Summit. "Excellent. Have the environmental controls been adjusted for their water-breathing requirements?" "All accommodations are ready, Ambassador. The crystalline hive mind from Sector 12 will arrive within the hour, followed by the botanical collective from the Green Worlds." As they spoke, the ambassador watched through the station's transparent walls as elegant ships approached from various directions. Each vessel was a work of art, smooth, graceful, and obviously designed for diplomacy rather than warfare. The aquatic ship resembled a massive shell with flowing curves, while the approaching crystalline vessel looked like a floating diamond that caught and reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. "This is what the galaxy should be," HFY murmured to himself. "Beauty, peace, and cooperation among all thinking beings." The communication error light years away, in a different part of space, the United Earth ship Thunderbolt moved through the void like a predator hunting its prey. The massive warship was a testament to human engineering and military thinking, angular, heavily armored, and bristling with weapon systems. Its dark hull was scarred from countless battles, and its design spoke of one purpose: to fight and win. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes scanning the tactical displays. At 35, she had already earned a reputation as one of humanity's finest military commanders. Her crew respected her not just for her tactical brilliance, but for her unwavering dedication to protecting human colonies from the various threats that lurked in the darkness between stars. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from command," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. "It's marked as urgent diplomatic mission." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Thunderbolt was a warship, not a diplomatic vessel. "Put it through." The message was brief and seemed straightforward. "Proceed immediately to coordinates 8473291 for first contact diplomatic mission. Represent humanity with honor. Time is critical." Captain Marcus Rivera, Chen's second-in-command, studied the coordinates on his display. "That's in the neutral zone, Captain. Strange place for a diplomatic meeting." "Command knows what they're doing," Chen replied, though something about the message felt off. "Set course for those coordinates, maximum burn. If this is first contact, we need to make a good impression." What neither Chen nor her crew knew was that a computer glitch had mixed up 2 different message queues at Earth Command. The coordinates meant for the diplomatic corps had been sent to the Thunderbolt, while the real diplomatic ship was heading to completely different coordinates, expecting to meet with human colonists about a trade dispute. Arrival at Kepler Station. The Thunderbolt dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of twisted light that sent ripples through the fabric of space around Kepler Station. The massive warship's sudden appearance was like a shark entering a school of colorful fish, its dark, angular form a stark contrast to the elegant vessels already docked at the station. On the station's main bridge, alarms began blaring immediately. High Counselor Lyrandis, the ethereal's most experienced diplomat, watched in horror as her peaceful gathering was suddenly overshadowed by the presence of a warship that looked capable of destroying planets. "What is that thing?" gasped the aquatic representative, his water-filled helmet fogging with panic. "It's a warship," Lyrandis replied, her voice losing its usual musical quality. But from which species, and why is it here? The Thunderbolt's communication array crackled to life. Kepler Station, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Thunderbolt. We're here for the diplomatic meeting, requesting permission to dock. The words, diplomatic meeting, sent confused murmurs through the station's alien representatives. The crystalline hive mind's collective voice buzzed with anxiety. Diplomacy? This vessel carries enough firepower to level a small moon. What manner of diplomacy requires such weapons? HFY tried to maintain calm, but his crystalline form was flickering with stress patterns. Unknown vessel, please clarify your intentions. This is a peace summit, not a military gathering. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Chen frowned at the response. Peace summit? Command said this was a first contact diplomatic mission. She turned to Rivera. Marcus, did we miss something in the briefing? I don't think we got a proper briefing, Captain. Just those coordinates and orders to represent humanity with honor. Chen made a decision that would change the course of interspecies relations. Kepler Station, we're not entirely sure what's happening here either. We received orders to come to these coordinates for a diplomatic mission. Perhaps we can sort this out in person? The tense docking. The docking process was unlike anything the peaceful aliens had ever witnessed. The Thunderbolt's docking bay was designed for military efficiency, not diplomatic elegance. As the massive ship connected to the station, the other vessels seemed to shrink in comparison. Lyrandis gathered the other delegates in the main reception hall, a beautiful space with walls that showed the stars beyond and flowing water features that helped maintain calm. The assembled aliens represented the most peaceful species in the galaxy, beings who had solved their conflicts through discussion, trade, and mutual understanding. We must be careful, warned the representative from the Botanical Collective, a tree-like being whose leaves rustled with nervousness. Whoever these humans are, they think diplomacy requires warships. This suggests a very different mindset from our own. The aquatic delegate's tentacles writhed anxiously. Perhaps we should contact our homeworlds and postpone the summit until we understand what's happening. No, Lyrandis said firmly. If these humans are truly here for diplomacy, then this is an opportunity. We must show them that peace is possible, that there are alternatives to violence. The station's main airlock hissed open, and the first human stepped onto Kepler Station. Commander Chen led the way, her military bearing evident in every step. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's Space Force, with various medals and insignia that spoke of battles fought and won. Behind her came Captain Rivera and a small escort of Marines in light armor. The moment Chen saw the gathered aliens, she realized something had gone very wrong. These beings were clearly not military commanders or even government officials. They had the look of scholars, artists, and philosophers, people who had never seen violence and hoped never to see it. Ambassador HFY, Chen asked, reading from a datapad. I'm Commander Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth government. We're here for the diplomatic meeting. HFY's form flickered more rapidly now, his energy patterns showing extreme confusion. Commander Chen, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. This is the Interspecies Peace Summit. We weren't expecting any military representatives. Chen felt her stomach drop. Peace Summit? Our orders mentioned first contact diplomacy, but nothing about a peace summit. She looked around at the assembled aliens, noting their obvious fear and confusion. I think someone made a mistake. A mistake? The crystalline hive mind's voice resonated with disbelief. You brought a warship to a peace summit by mistake? Rivera stepped forward, trying to help. With respect, we didn't know this was a peace summit. We received coordinates and orders to represent humanity diplomatically. We came in the only ship available. The botanical representative's leaves rustled with what might have been laughter or horror. The only ship available was a warship? What does this say about your species? Growing tensions, as the initial shock wore off, the alien delegates began to realize the implications of what they were seeing. The humans hadn't come to threaten them. They had come because they genuinely thought this was a diplomatic meeting. But the fact that their diplomatic response involved a warship spoke volumes about their nature. Commander Chen, Lyrandis said carefully, "May I ask why your people chose to send a military vessel for diplomatic purposes?" Chen struggled to explain something that seemed obvious to her. "The Thunderbolt is one of our most advanced ships. We wanted to make a good impression for first contact and—" She paused, realizing how this might sound. "We didn't know what to expect. Unknown situations can be dangerous." "Dangerous?" The aquatic delegate's tentacles coiled tighter. "You assumed we might be hostile?" "We assumed nothing," Rivera interjected. "But hope for the best, prepare for the worst is a human saying. It's kept us alive in a dangerous galaxy." The aliens exchanged glances that didn't require translation. The humans lived in a galaxy they considered dangerous, where diplomacy required military preparation. This was a fundamentally different worldview from their own. HFY made a decision that would prove crucial. "Commander Chen, regardless of how you arrived here, you are welcome to observe our peace summit. Perhaps you can learn about our methods of resolving conflicts without violence." Chen nodded gratefully. "We'd be honored. And perhaps we can share our experiences as well. We've encountered many species in our travels. Not all of them peaceful." "Not all peaceful?" The botanical representative's leaves shivered. "You mean some species choose violence over discussion?" "Some species only understand violence," Chen replied grimly. "We've encountered raiders, slavers, and conquerors. Speaking softly doesn't work with beings who see kindness as weakness." The gathered aliens fell silent, contemplating a reality they had never faced. In their part of the galaxy, conflicts were resolved through negotiation, trade agreements, and mutual understanding. The idea that some beings might choose violence over peace was alien to their experience. The revelation, as the day progressed, the humans found themselves in an increasingly uncomfortable position. They were clearly out of place among these peaceful beings, their military bearing and casual references to combat making the aliens nervous. But they were also fascinated by what they saw. Chen watched as the crystalline hive mind and the aquatic delegates worked together to resolve a territorial dispute between their species. The process involved mathematical calculations, resource sharing agreements, and compromises that benefited both sides. No threats were made, no weapons were mentioned, and both parties seemed genuinely happy with the outcome. "It's remarkable," Chen said to Rivera quietly. "They actually made it work through pure negotiation. It's amazing what you can accomplish when everyone wants peace," Rivera replied. "But what happens when you meet someone who doesn't?" The question hung in the air, and Chen noticed that several of the aliens had overheard. Lyrandis approached them, her form pulsing with curiosity rather than fear. "Commander Chen, may I ask you something? In your experience, what do you do when negotiation fails?" Chen considered the question carefully. "We try everything we can think of first. Economic incentives, cultural exchanges, finding common ground. But if someone is determined to hurt innocent people and they won't listen to reason..." She paused. "Sometimes you have to stop them by force." "Force meaning violence?" "Force meaning whatever it takes to protect people who can't protect themselves." The botanical representative leaned forward, his wooden features creaking with concentration. "But violence only creates more violence, doesn't it? Surely there must be another way." Chen's expression grew serious. "I used to think that too. Then I met the Reavers. The name meant nothing to the aliens, but the way Chen said it made them pay attention. The Reavers are a species that only exists to consume and destroy," Chen continued. "They don't negotiate, they don't trade, they don't even communicate beyond basic threats. They find inhabited worlds and strip them of everything valuable, taking slaves and leaving nothing but death behind. We tried to negotiate with them once." "What happened?" HFY asked softly. "They used our peace talks as a distraction while they attacked our colonies. 30,000 people died while we were trying to find a peaceful solution." The hall fell silent. For the first time, the assembled aliens were confronting the reality that not all species shared their values. "So you fought them?" Lyrandis asked. "We fought them. We hunted them down and made sure they could never hurt anyone again. And I sleep well at night knowing that 30,000 people are still alive because we were willing to do what was necessary." The aliens looked at each other with new understanding. The humans hadn't brought a warship because they were aggressive. They had brought it because they lived in a galaxy where predators existed, and they had learned to be ready for anything. The moment of understanding as the evening approached, the tension in the station had shifted from fear to curiosity. The aliens were beginning to see the humans in a different light, not as threats but as guardians who had learned hard lessons about the nature of the universe. Chen found herself in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Sci-Fi approached, his form now steady and calm. "Commander, I owe you an apology," the ambassador said. "When your ship arrived, I thought you had come to threaten us. I didn't understand that you came to protect us." "You had no way of knowing," Chen replied. "In your part of the galaxy, peace is the norm. You've been lucky to avoid the kind of predators we've encountered." "Perhaps," Sci-Fi said thoughtfully. "But I'm beginning to wonder if our luck might be running out. The galaxy is vast, and if there are beings like these reavers you mentioned." "There are," Chen said grimly. "And they're always looking for new hunting grounds, especially places where people aren't prepared to defend themselves." The ambassador's form flickered with concern. "What would you advise us to do?" Chen turned to face him fully. "Learn to protect yourselves, not because you want to hurt anyone, but because someone might want to hurt you. The strongest defense for peace is being prepared for war. But doesn't that change who you are? If you prepare for violence, don't you become violent?" "Only if you let it," Chen replied. "The key is remembering why you're fighting. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because someone has to stand between predators and their prey. We fight so that beings like you can continue to hold peace summits and resolve conflicts through discussion." As they talked, neither of them noticed the faint sensor readings that were beginning to appear on the Thunderbolt's long-range scanners. Something was approaching from the edge of the system, something that moved with the hungry purpose of a predator that had detected prey. Understanding through action the calm. Before the storm, the second day of the Peace Summit began with renewed hope. The initial fear and confusion had given way to genuine curiosity as the alien delegates began to understand the humans better. Commander Chen and her crew had spent the morning participating in various diplomatic workshops, learning about the ethereal collective's methods of conflict resolution. In the station's main conference hall, Lyrandis was presenting the history of their peaceful coalitions. "For over 2 millennia, our species have resolved every major conflict through dialogue and compromise," she explained, her crystalline form glowing with pride. "War is something we read about in ancient histories, not something we experience." Chen listened respectfully, but Rivera could see the concern in her eyes. As a military commander, she understood that peace could only exist when protected by those willing to fight for it. The question wasn't whether these peaceful beings deserved their tranquil existence. They absolutely did. The question was how long it could last without proper defenses. "It's truly remarkable," Chen said when Lyrandis finished. "You've created something beautiful here. I hope it continues forever." The botanical representative, who had introduced himself as Root Singer, Thalmian, rustled his leaves thoughtfully. "Commander Chen, yesterday you spoke of predator species. How common are such beings in your part of the galaxy?" Chen exchanged a glance with Rivera before answering. "More common than we'd like. Most species are reasonable, like yourselves. But there are always those who see cooperation as weakness and prefer to take what they want by force." "But surely they can be reasoned with," asked the aquatic delegate, Ambassador Depthwalker. "Even predators must have some form of logic or survival instinct that could lead to negotiation." "Some can," Rivera replied. "We've successfully negotiated with raiders before, usually by making it clear that attacking us would cost more than they could gain. But others..." He shook his head. "Some beings only understand strength, the warning signs on the Thunderbolts." Bridge, Lieutenant Torres was monitoring long-range sensors when something caught her attention. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual readings at the edge of the system." Since most of the senior staff was attending the summit, Ensign Park was serving as acting watch officer. He moved to Torres's station and studied the display. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple contacts moving in formation. They're still too far out for detailed scans, but their approach vector suggests they're not here for the peace summit. Park frowned. The system was supposed to be empty except for Kepler Station and the diplomatic vessels. Are they broadcasting any identification signals? Negative. And they're using some kind of stealth technology. I can barely detect them at all. Send a priority message to Commander Chen. She needs to know about this. The revelation of danger the Bai. Message reached Chen during a break in the summit proceedings. She read it quickly, her expression growing grim. Rivera noticed her reaction immediately. Sarah, what is it? Unknown contacts approaching the system. Multiple vessels, stealth technology, no identification. Chen stood up abruptly. I need to get back to my ship. HFY overheard and approached them, his form flickering with concern. Is there a problem, Commander? Chen hesitated. She didn't want to alarm the peaceful delegates unnecessarily, but they needed to know about the potential threat. We're detecting ships approaching the system. They're not identifying themselves, which usually isn't a good sign. Perhaps they're late arrivals to the summit, Lyrandi suggested hopefully. Maybe, Chen replied, though her tone suggested she didn't believe it. But I'd like to check it out just to be safe. The alien delegates looked at each other uncertainly. In their experience, mysterious ships usually turned out to be lost traders or explorers. The concept of a genuine threat was foreign to their peaceful existence. Commander? Thalmion said carefully. Surely you don't expect trouble at a peace summit? What kind of beings would attack a diplomatic gathering? The kind we've encountered before, Chen replied grimly. If you'll excuse me, I need to prepare my ship for potential defensive action. The storm arrives. 20 minutes later, the mysterious ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, and their intentions became immediately clear. They were raiders, a mixed fleet of converted cargo ships and jury-rigged warships, all bearing the scars of countless battles and the predatory modifications that marked vessels designed for piracy and worse. The lead ship broadcast a message that chilled everyone who heard it. Attention targets. This system is now under the control of the Crimson Fleet. Surrender all valuable cargo and personnel immediately, or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes to comply. On Kepler Station, panic erupted among the peaceful delegates. None of their ships carried weapons and few had even basic defensive systems. Their elegant diplomatic vessels had been designed for beauty and comfort, not survival against predators. What do we do? Depthwalker asked, his aquatic features pale with terror. Our ships cannot fight. We have no weapons, no defenses. Lyrandis tried to maintain calm, but her crystalline form was flickering rapidly with stress patterns. Perhaps we can negotiate with them. Surely they can be reasoned with. HFY activated the station's communication system. Unknown vessels. This is Ambassador HFY of the Ethereal Collective. We are conducting a peaceful diplomatic summit. We have nothing of military value. Please reconsider your actions. The response was immediate and brutal. We know exactly what you are, Crystal Skull. Peaceful means profitable. 10 minutes just became 5. Surrender now, or watch your pretty station burn. The human response on the Thunderbolt's bridge, Chen, was already issuing orders with the calm efficiency of someone who had faced similar situations many times before. All hands to battle stations, shields up, weapons online. Torres, get me a tactical analysis of the raider fleet. 12 ships total, Torres reported. Mixed configuration, but they're all armed. Looks like converted freighters with military-grade weapons bolted on. Rivera studied the tactical display. Standard raider tactics. They're counting on intimidation and overwhelming numbers against civilian targets. Not this time, Chen said firmly. She opened a channel to Kepler Station. Ambassador, HFY, this is Commander Chen. We're moving to intercept the raiders. Please evacuate all personnel to the station's core and activate any emergency shields you might have. Commander, you cannot fight 12 ships alone, HFY protested. Watch us, Chen replied with grim determination. The Thunderbolt detached from the station and moved to place itself between the raiders and their intended targets. The massive human warship looked small against the raider fleet, but Chen had faced worse odds before. The battle for peace. The first raider ship opened fire before the Thunderbolt was fully in position, sending a spread of missiles toward Kepler Station. Chen's response was immediate and devastating. The ship's point defense systems intercepted every missile with surgical precision, while her main guns returned fire with carefully calculated shots that disabled the raiders' weapons, without destroying the ship entirely. "Warning shot," Chen announced over the open channel. "Next one won't be so gentle." The raider commander's response was a snarl of rage and a full assault from the entire fleet. What followed was a masterclass in human military tactics and technology. The Thunderbolt moved through the raider formation like a predator among prey, its advanced shields deflecting incoming fire, while its weapon systems picked apart the enemy ships with ruthless efficiency. Chen used the raiders' own tactics against them, dividing their forces and engaging them in small groups, where her superior technology and training could overcome their numerical advantage. Rivera coordinated the defensive systems, while Chen handled the tactical maneuvering. Shields at 70%. Minor damage to decks 4 and 7, but all systems operational. "Keep us between the raiders and the station," Chen ordered. "Don't let any of them get past us." The battle raged for 20 minutes, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The raiders had expected easy prey, peaceful civilians with no defenses. Instead, they found themselves facing a warship designed and crewed for exactly this kind of fight. One by one, the raider ships were disabled or destroyed. Those that could retreat did so, limping away from a battle they had never expected to fight. When the last raider ship jumped to hyperspace, the system fell silent except for the quiet hum of the Thunderbolt's engines. The aftermath on Kepler Station, the alien delegates emerged from their emergency shelters to find their peaceful gathering saved by the very warship they had initially feared. The contrast was not lost on any of them. The humans they had worried about as potential threats had just protected them from actual predators. Lyrandis was the first to speak when Chen returned to the station. "Commander, we owe you our lives. Those raiders would have enslaved or killed us all. That's what we do," Chen replied simply. "We protect people who can't protect themselves." Thalmion's wooden features creaked as he processed what he had witnessed. "You fought 12 ships and won. How is such a thing possible?" "Training, technology, and experience," Rivera answered. "But mostly we fight for something worth protecting. That makes all the difference." Depthwalker approached Chen with obvious awe. "Commander, I must apologize for our earlier concerns. We thought your weapons made you dangerous, but we understand now that your weapons make you protectors." "Both can be true," Chen said thoughtfully. "Weapons are tools. What matters is how you use them and why." The new alliance as the delegates returned to their summit. The entire atmosphere had changed. The aliens no longer saw the humans as aggressive warmongers, but as guardian warriors who used their strength to protect the innocent. More importantly, they had seen firsthand proof that their peaceful existence was only possible because predators had not yet found them. HFY called for a special session of the summit. "Fellow delegates, today we have learned that our galaxy contains both peaceful builders and violent predators. We have also learned that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is through strength." "What are you suggesting?" asked the crystalline hive mind's representative. "I am suggesting that we invite humanity to join our coalition," HFY replied. "Not as members who share our methods, but as protectors who share our values." The proposal was revolutionary. The ethereal collective had never before allied themselves with a military power, but the day's events had shown them the necessity of such protection. Chen stood to address the assembly. "If you'll have us, we'd be honored to help protect your alliance. But I want to be clear about something. We're not conquerors or rulers. We're guardians. Our job is to stand between predators and their prey, nothing more." "And in return?" Lyrandis asked. "Friendship," Chen replied simply. "The chance to learn from species who have achieved what we're still working toward, and the knowledge that there are beings in this galaxy worth fighting for." The promise of tomorrow. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in their history, The peaceful species of the ethereal collective voted to accept military protection from an allied power. But more than that, they voted to learn how to protect themselves. We will need to change, Thalmion admitted. Some of us will need to learn about defense, about weapons, about the realities of a galaxy that contains predators. We'll help you, Rivera offered. Not to make you into warriors, but to give you the tools to remain peaceful by choice rather than by chance. Depthwalker raised a thoughtful appendage. There is wisdom in this. True peace comes not from the absence of conflict, but from the strength to choose cooperation over conquest. As the summit continued, the relationship between humans and the ethereal collective deepened. The aliens shared their knowledge of diplomacy, cultural exchange, and peaceful resolution of conflicts. The humans shared their understanding of defense, strategy, and the harsh realities of a galaxy where not everyone chose peace. The lesson learned. 3 days later, as the Thunderbolt prepared to depart Kepler Station, Chen stood once again in the observation deck with Zeph-Hi. The ambassador's crystalline form glowed with contentment, a stark contrast to the flickering anxiety of their first meeting. Commander, I have been thinking about what you said before, that the strongest defense for peace is being prepared for war. I understand now that this is not about choosing violence over peace. It is about choosing to be strong enough that others cannot choose violence for you. Chen nodded. That's exactly right. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of justice, protected by those willing to stand guard. And you will continue to stand guard for us? For as long as you need us to, Chen promised. But more importantly, we'll teach you to stand guard for yourselves. Not because we want you to become warriors, but because we want you to remain free to choose peace. As the Thunderbolt undocked from Kepler Station, it carried with it more than just a crew returning from an unexpected diplomatic mission. It carried the seeds of a new kind of alliance, one where peaceful civilizations and protective warriors worked together to ensure that peace could flourish in a dangerous galaxy. The last message Chen received from the station came from Lyrandis. Thank you for showing us that sometimes the greatest diplomacy comes not from words, but from actions. We will remember this lesson. Chen smiled as she settled into her captain's chair. Set course for home, Marcus. But keep us within patrol, range of ethereal space. Something tells me we're going to be needed here again. The Thunderbolt jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a group of peaceful aliens who had learned that their tranquil existence was not guaranteed by the nature of the universe, but protected by those willing to fight for it. And in the vast darkness, between stars, other predators were already taking notice of this new alliance between builders and guardians. The galaxy had become a more interesting place, and both humans and aliens would need to be ready for whatever came next.